I'm Vasita, and the problem statement that I chose to propose my solution is AI transcription and translation for voice messages app within Rocket.Chat. So I built a prototype which is simple and which lets me understand how to create a translation transcription service within a Rocket.Chat app. So let me first walk through the code quickly and then we'll see how the prototype works. So initially we'll import some interfaces and APIs that are defined by Rocket.Chat that we can make use in our code. And when we create a Rocket.Chat ad using command create will be provided with this boiler template code, which is a class file that will extend the base class app of Rocket.Chat for us to make any app within Rocket.Chat. This constructor, which will be calling the superclass. And then this prototype will be working based on three steps. First thing is to identify when a particular message is sent in the chat and recognizing it if it's an audio file or not, and then transcribing it, translating it, and then sending the transcribed and translated data back to the user. So initially we'll have this method called execute post message send. So this method will execute when a particular message is sent in a chat. So after we recognize that message is sent in the chat, what we'll do is we'll see if the message has any attachments, because audio file is an attachment. If there are no attachments, we'll return it. But if there are attachments, we'll iterate through all of the attachments that are there, and we'll check for this property called audio URL, which is confined to audio files. So if we found that raw URL is not undefined, means we found a audio file, and what we'll do is we'll try to transcribe it first. So transcribing it will need the URL of the audio, and it has to be a complete URL. And I've appended the local host 3000 because currently my server is running on localhost 3000. So for transcribing, I've defined a user defined function. So it is transcribe audio message. So what we'll be doing is, for making it simple, I haven't used any paid API services or right now, and I want to make it as simple as possible, but also understand how transcription within a Rocket.Chat app works. So what I did is I made up a Flask server which will transcribe the text using a Python speech recognition library, which has built-in support for Google's web speech API, which is free. So everything else pretty much will be the same, but in actual implementation of the project in Google Summer of Code, we'll be making use of services like Google Speech to Text API, which is highly accurate and paid, or WASC, which is a great offline privacy option. So for now, for keeping it simple, I've used Flask and speech recognition library provided by Python. So I'm running Flask in port 5005, and once you start the server, you'll have to replace this IP address with your device's IP address that can be obtained by typing the command ipconfig in command prompt for making the communication possible between Flask server and this server. So once we post our data via http.post, we'll be getting the data in our Flask server, which is this. I also provided this code. Make sure you set up the Flask server before itself. So here what we'll do is we'll make the necessary imports in the speech recognition library as well. So we'll be getting the data and we'll try to store it and download it, because this Flask server doesn't have direct access to Rocket.Chat's file services or file storage. So we'll have to have it locally for it to transcribe, and then we'll be converting it to .wav extension, because speech recognition library doesn't only supports few of the formats, out of which WAV or WAV is one. So we'll be converting the received audio files extension to WAV, and then we'll proceed to transcribe it. So first we'll extract the audio data, and then we'll extract the text from that audio data. And once the transcription is done, we'll be removing these files in order to not clutter the disk with more and more storage. And then we'll send back the JSONified data. And once we get the data back, we will be returning to the place where we call this function. And the next step would be translating the text. So for translating the text as well, I've defined a function. So The thing is, Google's Translate API and Libre Translate also have API keys which are paid. So for keeping my prototype simple, what I did is I've made use of the free Gemini API key that Google provides for its developers. So you can also get one of your Google Gemini API by visiting Google AI Studio. So I've got my API and I've uploaded the app as well. And for security purposes, I'm not revealing the API key here. So for testing purpose, you can replace this API key here string with your API key. But when like actually deploying it, we have to make sure that this API key is stored securely without exposing it to the public. So I've made up this prompt for letting Gemini know that it has to translate the text that it gets. And then I sent the data here. So once we get back the data, we'll be getting it in a format and then we can destructure it and send back only the part where translated text exists. And once we've transcribed and translated the text, the last thing we have is sending the data back to the user. So we have to craft a message like this in order to send back translated and transcribed data. So we can make use of this modify.getCreator.start message, which is a part of Rocket.Chat's App Engine SDK, which will help us create messages and send them. So here we'll create the message and we'll send it to the room from where we got the message, that is the same room, and we'll send it through the thread option. So we'll have threads in main chat, right? So the data, whatever we processed here, it will be appearing as thread under that corresponding message for making it easier for the users to access it. So yeah, so once the transcription and translation is done, we can view that transcription translation within the interface. So let's test this. So for example, let's first test it with the audio message. This is a sample audio message for testing Rocket.Chat app. So I will be sending this to the backend and we'll have to wait for a few seconds for the thread to show up. In meantime, the processing is being done in the backend server. So once that is done, you can see that there's a view thread option here, and if you click on it, we will be able to see both the transcription and the translation as well. Apart from sending a voice message directly, we can also upload a file from your local device. I have a couple of downloads in my device. I'm uploading one of them.
Rocket.Chat is an open source, customizable, and secure communications platform designed for teams, offering features like team chat, customer service, and secure file sharing, with options for both self hosted and cloud deployments.
So I'm sending this for transcription and translation service, and after a few seconds, we'll be able to see a thread that will be popping up, which will contain transcription and translation data. So this is the transcription, and let's check if the translation is properly given or not. So it's working properly. So here I'm uploading two voice messages at a time and we'll see if it will work for both of them. So the first voice message that is sent will receive the thread first, which will contain its own transcription and translation. And the second one will be given after the first one is being processed in an order. So in real time project, when we're doing this in Google Summer of Code, what we'll be doing is we'll be providing users with options of choosing their target language in translation and choosing their own services if this idea is approved by the mentor, and then if everything else will be pretty much the same, but it's just that we'll be collecting data from the user regarding what target language he or she prefers, and then we'll be returning the translation in that language. For now, what I did is I've set the language to Spanish and the source language to English. So this is the transcription, as you can see. This is a sample audio message for testing Rocket.Chat app. And the transcription is 100% accurate. And this is the translation. So let's just check if the translation is correct by pasting it here. And yeah, The translation also worked pretty well. So as you have seen, we saw how translated and transcribed text is being visible within the thread. So now this is the working prototype, which helped me understand how to create a Rocket.Chat app and also how to integrate services like translation and transcription within the prototype.